Welcome back to AB in Focus. I'm Nicole Abigail, reporter at Arabian Business, and joining us today is Gaurang Shah, Executive Vice President of Global Acceptance and Merchant Solutions at Mastercard. Also joining us is Selin Bahadirli, the Executive Vice President of Services, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa at Mastercard. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the first question is going to go to you, Gaurang. Can you walk us through how Merchant Cloud works and how it's going to help merchants, and also what specific benefits does it offer?
We are here, or our entire aim is to make it simple for our customers. And that's what we're trying to do with Merchant Cloud. Make it simple for our customers in the entire acceptance ecosystem, from acquirers to merchants and everyone in between. What do you mean by making it simple? See, if you think about 25 years back, when the e-commerce started, and there was nothing called digital, it was e-commerce, and then it became digital over the years. It was a very nascent industry. Mm-hmm. It is the fastest growing payment ecosystem, and we predict by 2029 it would be 11.4, 11.5 trillion globally. That's a huge economy in itself. Now, within this broader ecosystem, again, if you think about 25 years back, when we came up with the concept of e-commerce transaction, it was very simple. I needed to create a website on the merchant. Someone needed to create a website on the merchant page, and then we needed to capture the transaction from there instead of a POS terminal and securely bring it to the issuer for looking at the transactions and saying yes or no. We did it by building a tech called what we call today gateway. Mm-hmm. Now, over the years, if you think about it, it was just one simple service. Today, in any transaction, there are at least 5 services embedded into it. There's an authentication service. There's a fraud scoring happening behind the scenes. There's some data story happening behind the scene, and many other. And if we look at but if you look at different players, there are at least 25, 30 services that the acceptance ecosystem is consuming today. Now, for a player, a merchant or a PSP or an ISV to come in and enable one by one all of these services across 3 big international schemes, across 50 plus domestic schemes, it's an impossible task. Just imagine the permutation and combination.
Of course.
So the Merchant Cloud is a next generation acceptance ecosystem that is developer first, meaning it offers a simple unified onboarding, it offers a modular APIs, and it offers the curated journeys for these developers to come in and build, integrate, and create a scale. That's what this platform, the platform does. Brings all services to be enabled very easily by our partners for their end merchants. That's what Merchant Cloud is.
Selin, my next question is to you. What safeguards are in place to ensure that Merchant Cloud is secured across geographies? And how is Mastercard helping merchants and card issuers prevent fraud in digital commerce?
Yeah, that's a great question. So security and trust are the center of everything we do in Mastercard. And Merchant Cloud has been built on the same exact principles. We've talked a lot about commerce, right? And commerce going digital. Just to share some numbers, by 2030, we expect 40 billion devices connected to commerce. This could be phones, it could be your fridge, your car, any device you can think of. What that means is customers will be able to shop anywhere and any way that they want. That means at the same time is with commerce going so rapidly, the appetite for cyber criminals will also increase because the cake will become just bigger. Even in 2024, if we were to think about cybersecurity related losses as an economy in itself, it would be the 3rd largest economy in the world after US and China, representing almost $10 trillion. And we expect that to increase, right? With commerce going digitally, we expect that to increase by almost 60% in the next 3-4 years. So That's also a reason why Mastercard is investing very heavily in cybersecurity, in fraud solutions that will really increase the security and the safety of the whole ecosystem. And when we do invest, of course, we do not just invest in our technology, but our investment is through the whole digital ecosystem to make sure that every participant in this game is safe and is protected. And for Merchant Cloud, we are doing exactly the same. Merchant Cloud runs on the Mastercard network. So every investment that we do to make the Mastercard network more resilient, more safe, and more protected, the same applies to Merchant Cloud. So our merchants will have access to top-notch fraud and cyber-related services, which will detect and prevent all these issues before they happen.
It's good to know, knowing that safety and security is at priority is something that's really, it's really good to know for consumers for sure. And now, Gaurang, how do you ensure interoperability across different platforms, payment methods, and markets as well?
See, this is, we have for a very long period of time talked about the concept of multi-rail network. And Merchant Cloud brings some multi-rail network together almost for the first time. So it's a global platform. It today connects not only to all the international schemes, but today 35 domestic schemes globally are integrated into that. So now, if you look at what are the other methods of payments, there are account-to-account rails that's emerging. There are large wallet ecosystems that exist. There are other proprietary ecosystems there. We are aiming to bring all of them into one place, and then when a consumer comes onto the merchant interface, they will decide based on the right relevance and the best approval rates, which rails do they choose. So if a consumer comes in, depending upon what is the store value or the tokens that they bring, it gets decided. If it's a card token, then it's a card rail that gets used. If they want an installment within the card rails, that's how the transaction will get processed. If they do not have the card rail, but they have the wallet, then they will make the payment from the wallet. So the interoperability is really happening at a merchant level, driven by the consumer choice. But it's a very intelligent system, because more often than not we see that consumers has more than one way to make that payment. But what is the best way to make that payment? And that's where the intelligent routing and learning that's going into the system that powers it to say, hey, the consumer wants the best approval rate, that if I'm making a payment, my transaction should get approved. And I should get the maximum rewards on this transaction, and it shouldn't take too much time. These are the only three things consumers are bothered about. There's no fourth thing. How do we then prompt the consumer to say, hey, for this transaction, this is the best way for you to go? And that's all that complexity, because consumers can't make that choices sometimes and they make wrong choices, will be prompted and helped using the Merchant Cloud.
Okay. And Selin, what role does real-time data insight play in helping merchants make smarter decisions and optimize performance?
Yeah. So I think there is a difference between a good merchant and a great merchant. And that difference is reacting versus predicting. And a merchant can only predict and therefore make smarter decisions if they use the data intelligently. And with merchant commerce, we're going to be able to have access to transaction data, behavioral data, and contextual data. And we'll be able to bring that also to our merchant ecosystem. Just to give a few examples, with Merchant Cloud, the merchants will be able to send personalized offers real time to the customers, and that offer will be very different if it's presented to me versus Gaurang, who is a different profile. At the same time, the same merchants will be able to authorize a transaction and be able to avoid all the leakages that come from declining, every small transaction, again, with our AI-based services. Another example on fraud. again, with our AI-based fraud models and services, they're going to be able to stop the fraud before it happens, because as Mastercard will be able to monitor, right, all the different behaviors that are happening to our network and be able to alert them when something suspicious happens. And by this, we believe that our merchants will be able to create a much more smart, safe, and easy and simple experience for their customers, which will bring them more business.
Okay, and now for my next question, I'd like to hear from both of you. So let's start with you, Gaurang, and then we'll move on to you, Selin. As commerce continues to evolve, how do you see new trends and technologies such as AI reshaping the way that merchants operate globally?
Yeah, so AI has taken the world by storm, and it's solving real problems. So already, if you look at, consumers like to tell someone, saying, hey, can you do this for me? Now, this has been the consumer behavior for 100 years back. 100 years back, there was some person, and when I was saying, my dad will say, Gaurang, can you go and get me a glass of water? Or can you go and buy me a pack of bread? And I will run and take the coins and go and bring it back, right? What AI is doing is the same behavior where consumers want to hand over the request to someone else and say, hey, someone else does all the intelligent thinking for them so that they do not want to make the hard work. That's exactly what AI is able to do, but they are able to think through millions and millions of combinations based on the data of my preferences, of my past behaviors, and bring it to the front to make the decisions for you. That's what AI is doing, and that's what this agentic payment is come to the industry with a storm, where in the past, if you look at websites like Amazon, they were already doing predictive analytics and prompting me based on my past experience. So Gaurang has come here and he most likely would like to see these kind of products, or I typed something, they'll know, oh, this is the typical kind of behavior, and they will only show me that. Now, that is going onto the consumer channel side with the advent of OpenAI and ChatGPT and Perplexity and all of these consumer agents, where I go and tell my agent as consumer, I want to fly next week to South Africa. Can you figure it out? And this is my schedule, and you can pick it up from my inbox. That's it. And then the system will go and look at my inbox and say, hey, I have meetings on Monday morning starting 10 a.m. till Wednesday evening, 5 p.m. What are the flights I need to book? Gaurang always likes to fly direct. He happy to do a red-eye flights. He likes to stay in the hotel, which is not as fancy, but is closer to all his work meetings. And he doesn't like to drive the car, he likes to be driven. They will quickly go and figure it out and put all of those hundreds and thousands of combinations, give me one recommendation or few recommendations, choose first, I choose, and then the transactions goes through. Now, this is very easy, but there is one challenge within this. How do I trust the agent? And that's where players like Mastercard are coming in and said, hey, we will ensure that the trust is there in the ecosystem by making sure there is a consumer intent that we capture. We make sure we verify and certify the agent, and we certify the transaction or authenticate the transaction and keep the record of the transaction. If tomorrow something goes wrong, I have a full record. So this is the way we ensure that we maintain the trust into a system. But yeah, I would say agentic commerce is here to stay because it leans into 1,000-year-old consumer behavior, which just coming together in a different way because of AI. Much more combinations are possible.
I'd like to hear what you think about that as well, Selin.
Well, that was a great answer, right? I think AI is really changing the fabric of payments. It's changing the fabric of, finance. And what's most exciting in that is really, the emergence of the AI agents. We already predict this to be a market of over 150 billion, right? Which is gonna grow at a very, very fast pace. And as Gaurang has mentioned, with these agents who will be talking to each other, there is very little that's going to be left for the human, right? I'm just going to say, plan me a trip to South Africa, and those agents that will interact behind the scenes will plan everything, my flight, my hotel, my maybe dining reservations if I'm going with my family, maybe all the excursions for them as well. But as Gaurang said, the question is, what happens when something goes wrong? What happens if it's not an authentic agent that's acting on my behalf, right? How are we gonna protect the ecosystem, the consumer and the merchant in this? So these are all the questions, of course, that we are thinking about, because as much as there are great opportunities, there are also some risks that will emerge with this great technology. But as Mastercard, I would say we are already planning ahead to make sure that for our ecosystem partners, we are providing them the same exact experience that we've been providing so far, something that's easy, it's safe, it's secure, and it can be trusted. Because in this new world, with all these AI agents, I think, emerging, trust was always important, but it will become even more important. It will be paramount.
Definitely. That's very well said, and a great note to wrap this up on. Thank you both for your insight today. It's been truly great chatting with both of you.